Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for all the wonderful ideas that you gave me for this saw painting. This is really going to be fun, at least I hope. We'll see. Anyway, I asked John from church if he would help me with this project, and he graciously consented to do so. And so together he and I made this video so that you could see what to do if you decide to paint a saw yourself. So let's go see what's going on. Hey guys, hi. This is John Newell, and he's going to be helping me with this saw project, which I'm so excited about. He's laid out a bunch of tools here, and I don't know what's going to transpire, so we're just going to watch him work. How's that? Say hi, John.
Okay, hi. So we got a couple rusty saw blades that we're going to prep for painting on. So we're going to start by removing the handles first.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the way they come off in the saw blade. Make sure you don't lose any of these pieces and try to keep them together of which saw blade goes with which. Get it in there. So you want to be a little careful when you're taking these out and putting them in, because the screws come out, but the other side, I don't know if you can see it, but the other side has a square shank that fits into a square hole to keep it from turning while you tighten up the nut on the other side. Okay, so now we have the handles removed. And then the next thing we're going to do is use a wire brush and go along and get the edges of where the teeth are and try and get all the rust off of those. Okay, that's side one. We'll do the other side as well. Okay, we've cleaned most of the rust off fairly well back from the teeth. So now we'll just try to get the rest of this out in the middle here with the sander. So when I first looked at these saw blades to see how bad the rust was, I noticed it was pretty much surface rust and not deep into the metal. It wasn't pitting the metal yet. So I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper that will clean it up nicely without making heavy scratch marks in the middle. Okay, so that's side one of this blade. It came out pretty nice, and it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because we will use a rust inhibitor primer on it, but I think that's pretty good for that side. We'll go ahead to the other side.
He had asked me if I wanted it sanded before I paint and the handles off before I paint, or if I wanted the handles on, and I decided that it would be best to maybe just go ahead and paint it with the handles off. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so this side is finished, and I found out that there's not enough bite left on the teeth to wreck my sandpaper, so I skipped the wire brush on this side, but that's pretty much ready for priming. If you find that your rust is so thick and hard that it has actually pitted the metal, you would want to start with maybe like a 100, maybe even an 80 grit sandpaper, and then go through a couple of stages to smooth it down. But this one's pretty good shape. The rust-proof primer will take care of any remaining small amount of rust on there. So we'll start the next one.
Oh, so cool. That is as smooth as a baby's butt. Oh, it's just so smooth. It's like brand new. It's beautiful. Beautiful job.
Okay, we're going to bounce this one up to 120 to start with. It's a little heavier grit, and it'll take that rust off a little quicker. I think it's a little bit heavier on this saw blade than the first one. And I don't know if you can see it, but along here it's got pitting right down in here into the metal. So we're going to see how much of that we can get off.
Woo!
Okay,
John.
so right down in here, you can see that there's some fairly deep areas that are pitted down below the metal, and we won't be able to completely get those off. But we also have some liquid material that's called rust remover, which we could wash that out with a little bit and then help before we put the primer on.
Are you using a lot of pressure with that, John?
No.
Just light pressure?
It's the sandpaper that does the work.
Okay.
Okay, that's pretty good. The areas that still look like there's blotches of rust is because it's pitted there, and you'd have to keep sanding the metal off to get down to it. We don't want to do that. I'm going to put the 220 back on and just brush this off to clean it up a little bit, make sure there's no scratch marks from the heavier sandpaper. I just noticed that there's a message in this saw blade.
Oh, I can see it. Something, I can't read it, but...
Right. Something like this saw is... Yeah, I can't quite read it yet either. We'll see if we can get it up a little more. No, I still can't quite make it out.
This saw blade has nothing on it that lets us know what it is or who it's from or anything.
Yeah. This is a rust dissolving gel. I'm going to go ahead and give a little wash onto the saw blades just to try to inhibit those pitted areas a little bit more. I think they're fine, but this is just an extra precaution.
Does that dissolve the rust, John?
It's called a rust inhibitor, and I don't know if it...
Oh, it stops it from forming?
Yeah, I don't know if it just stops the process or if it eats it up, or I'm not sure.
Ooh, that made it pretty. Now, does that have to sit on there for quite a while?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 10 to 15 minutes, I think, so
Okay.
we could stop the recording while this soaks. Now, this stuff is pretty potent. You're not supposed to breathe it.
Good thing we're doing it
or
outside.
get it on your hands. So I'm using a rag and keeping my fingers away from it. Okay, we're just going to let that soak for a little while, and then we'll come back, rinse that off, dry it really good, and put a primer coat on it. This is the primer we're going to use. It's this color on the cap, and it's supposed to be a very sound rust preventative primer. So we're hoping that it will do the job effectively and won't be a problem with any bleed through in the final painting.
Cool. That if it's not totally 100% smooth, it's not going to make any difference for the painting.
Right, exactly.
Now, does this dry on there, or is
Well, it is kind
you
of,
just
but
wipe it off after?
Yeah, I'll go put it under the faucet and wash it
Oh,
off.
under the faucet?
And then we'll blow dry it good. So we're kind of taking a look at the handles here. You can see that this one is in pretty good shape. The wood is all smooth. The opposite side, however, has had a little fire on it at some point in its lifetime. This one you'll see is much more cracked and weathered. It does have a design pattern in the wood on this side, however.
That design is pretty.
Yeah, I think with a little bit of sanding to smooth everything out and then a coat of protection of some kind, both handles would turn out looking very nice.
Now, what would you suggest for protection? To varnish?
Yeah, some kind of lacquer or
Okay.
paraffin.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see with just a little bit of sanding here that the wood grain is coming up nice. So it might take a little while of working on these to get them where you want them to be, but I think they have potential to come out very nice. We'll leave that for another project. I could hit them with the sander to get most of the top surface off. Want to do that?
Wow, what a difference. That looks so smooth.
It is smooth, yeah. I don't know if I was expecting more of the wood grain to come out, and it might.
Probably will once you put a finish on it.
And this one, it's a lot smoother.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Still have to get all the little crooks and crannies.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a good start with the power sander, and then the rest can be finished up with a little more hand sanding to make those nice. This almost seems like some kind of synthetic wood rather than real wood, but it's hard to tell. It's hard to see the grain in there. It might be a specialty wood. So as you sand it down, it might come up more. So I'm going to take the blades now and go rinse them off, and then we'll proceed.
Boy, that picks up a lot of stuff, doesn't it?
Okay, so I just hand dried these. Turn the compressor on. We're going to air blow them. Okay, so I think the rust inhibitor worked really well. There's even in those pitted areas you can no longer see any rust down
Yeah, it
inside
looks
the
smooth.
pits. And then lastly, we're going to hook up a heat gun and apply a little heat to the metal to make absolutely sure that it's dry. We're going to put a coat of primer on the saw blades, rust inhibitor primer. And this is an old can, so I hope it works. If not, we'll find another one. It's kind of breezy today.
Yes,
So
it
this could
is.
be interesting.
Not only that, we've had smoke galore. We've got a fire in the area, so we've had a lot of smoke. Sis, say hi to everybody.
Hi,
'cause
everybody.
my sister came to watch all that's going on so she can learn something too.
Looks like clouds.
And if I decide to change the color, John,
Oh,
I can just go over with a different color of primer?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I got a little run up there, but it'll be under the handle.
okay. Not a problem.
Did the saws get the picture?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
Anyway, you guys all can thank John. I'm going to thank John. Thank you, John,
You're
so
welcome.
much. Oh. John is from our church, by the way. We're just really good buddies. And without him, I could not have done this project. I have not a tool in my garage. I have nothing. He's got like everything.
Pretty close.
So thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
John. It was
Welcome.
fun. I really learned a lot.
The great project is ahead of you.
Oh, is it ever? The painting part.
Yeah.
Okay, see you guys later. Bye.